Just the other day, as a matter of fact, I thought, man, let's get the driver feedback on this story and find out what it is all about. Joel Patterson is joining me now, and he is a workplace expert, and we've got a very interesting story. I want to get your feedback on drivers, see if you want to call us. And, Joel, great to have you back on radio. Tell folks a little bit about you. Welcome back.
Yeah, thanks, Mark. Great to be here. I work in Dallas with a company called the Vested Group, and we are a culture-first organization, which is why I usually am doing media with people. And what I really like to talk about is how you invest in people, how you really get the most you can out of that relationship, going in both directions, but really how you can make your workplace something that is empowering, engaging for everyone. And what we're talking about today is when it's not so much.
This is a story that's got a lot of different angles to it, and many people are going back to the office now. Companies are stating, okay, we've got all the COVID stuff behind us for the most part. We're still going to play it safe, but we want you to come back in. And employees are back, but I think that they're also annoying each other already. So, where will they take their petty annoyances and uncomfortable complaints? And I think the line is going to be outside the human resources door. Safe to say that line's already forming right now with many folks going back?
I would say that is absolutely the case. People have gotten very comfortable in their work-from-home lifestyle, and as companies, it's a struggle for a lot of organizations just to get them back, much less what's it going to be like when they do get them there. And what we're hearing and seeing from a lot of different companies is just some things haven't changed. Right? There's still plenty of people that can get upset about simple things, but there's also a lot of people out there that aren't very self-aware, especially as they start getting back into the public eye. You think about, I guess, for a lot of times, for a while now, people could just have, as long as the upper half was dressed appropriately, a lot of PJs and flip-flops and things going on. And so a lot of companies have to look at this and decide, is this something that I want to dig in on? Do I want to create a situation here where, we're still in a tight labor market. There's still a lot of things that are difficult to get people moving, and annoying habits have become another topic as part of that long list.
Oh, no question about that. I think everybody has seen maybe in a grocery store somebody wearing their pajamas. I mean, and that's fine, if you're going through a store and maybe you are doing a quick shop or you're with family and things like that. Whatever's going to get you through the day is going to make it comfortable. But if you're working in an office environment and say you are dressed up and your coworkers in their PJs, that might create a little friction, right? Because you might say, well, why is that person able to do that when I'm not dressed up like that?
It absolutely will, and it's something that will have to be addressed. If you just start thinking, there's always the ones that jump to the top of the list. Anything in the microwave, pretty much. Even popcorn, which smells good, somebody will burn it, and that ruins it. So anything in the microwave is immediately something that people can say, no fish in there, no broccoli, no spinach. Stay away from that stuff for sure.
Yeah, no hard-boiled eggs, raw onions. If you open up that fridge in the lunchroom and the first thing you get smacked in the face with is a hard-boiled egg smell of raw onions, that's going to create a little bit of a friction problem there. When do folks need to realize that, hey, the workplace, the office, like in a trucking company, as an example, it's not your house. There's certain protocol you got to follow, don't you? Right? But that's going to come down from the C-suite. That's got to dictate that.
Yeah, it has to start with the culture and how do you deal with these kind of things, because you don't want to make it miserable for everybody, but you want to give people their own right to kind of be who they are. But once it starts infringing upon everybody else's rights, even if those rights are just really horrible smells, you're going to do something about it to make sure that people can just feel comfortable and don't want to be at their homes anymore, sitting in their PJs. Maybe they actually want to be there with their coworkers, and by creating an environment where people are allowed to get away with that stuff, you're not going to be encouraging them to come in and stay there. So it's you got to lead by example. Make sure you come up with ways to get around, or to I shouldn't say it that way, to work with people. In other words, give them a private space to go work. Give them, if they're salespeople tend to be very loud. So if you've got a salesperson in your office that is very loud, find a room for them. I mean, just simple things like that should be the first thing that you try to check off. And then if you can't fix it that way, you're going to have a conversation.
I would think, too, that the fridge is going to be off limits. You mentioned things like the fish and the hard-boiled egg smells, raw onions and things like that. But if you're going to put your food in a refrigerator, say in an office in a trucking company, that's your food. And if somebody comes along and takes a bite out of it or eats portions of it, that's going to raise the hair on the back of your head. And I'll give you an example. This was many years ago. I was working for a radio station in Dallas, and the guy that was the production director, he brought in a hamburger for his lunch. And it was on a Friday. He got busy, didn't get a chance to eat it. And what he did is he went back to the fridge on Monday thinking his hamburger was going to be there, but it was half-eaten by somebody on the weekend staff. And no, it was not me, but somebody took half of that sandwich and then put the rest of it back in the fridge. And then, lo and behold, the production director put a note on the fridge to the SOB that ate half of my sandwich, I hope he gets sick. And the person that did that eating of the sandwich, right back on the weekend, put a note up and said, next time get a cheeseburger. So that didn't sit well.
No, somebody didn't learn their lesson.
No, I thought, man, what a comeback. Next time get a cheeseburger. But there are some things that are going to be off limits. Like, I mean, if you are doing nail clipping in the office, that's a no-no. If you've got maybe belching and beyond, try to stifle that or go somewhere that you can do something like that, right? The noise factor is going to be taken into consideration.
The noise is the biggest thing, especially in a lot of open environments. But I'll give you another one that I've heard. I've never actually experienced this myself, but working in the IT industry most of my career, you do run into these things, and that's somebody looking at offensive content on the internet right out in the open. And people forget that they're in an open office environment now. They're not sitting on their couch at home.
Yeah, they got to be careful because that's going to leave a little trail that certainly the IT folks are going to come back and look at and say, well, what is this deal? So again, no cozy slippers, no shoes, yoga pants are out, and if you're wearing maybe last decade's concert shirt, you gotta ditch that stuff, right? You got to go with the flow, and that's what I think a lot of bosses
I don't know. I guess it depends on how vintage
for.
that T-shirt really is. If we're talking 1980s and you were actually there, it's probably still worth it, right?
Yep. Hey, if it makes you comfortable, that's okay, right? Do you think?
The clothing thing isn't as big of a deal in my mind because everybody's got to have their own situation in their office, and it all depends on what you're trying to convey to your clients, right? But clothing is pretty flexible these days. Obviously, you don't want to be completely risque. You want to be properly clothed. But what is actually, unless it's completely offensive to people, it's pretty casual.
Well, and does this, if it's a casual environment, in your estimation, Joel, does that maybe improve productivity? If guys don't have to wear ties or starched white shirts and can wear maybe khakis or maybe a pullover, does that make productivity better, in your estimation?
I think it does. Some people will argue that when you're buttoned up and you've got a three-piece suit on, it makes your productivity better because you feel like you're part of something that's more concrete maybe. But no, in my mind, I remember when I first got out of college especially, I was wearing a suit to work every single day, and I worked in downtown Dallas, and it was miserable in the summers. So I guarantee you it improved our productivity not having to do that.
Yeah, I think that's why probably a lot of companies go with the idea of a casual Friday kind of approach. But, in this day and age, unless you really got to have that tie on, there's really no need, I think, to wear it. All right, let's do this. I'm going to break for a few minutes here. And drivers would love to hear from you. Joel Patterson is on board. He's a workplace expert. And give us a call. When you go into the office, think your trucking company, you got to go in for whatever reason. Is it a casual workplace? Is it where people wear blue jeans? Can they wear maybe a 1980s concert shirt? Does it make them more productive? Or is the other side of that, is your office, pretty much everybody's got to wear, all the guys have got to wear a tie, and maybe dress slacks, and the women have got to be in dresses and things like that. What is your preference, casual or more formal? And again, in an office environment that you're thinking, okay, what's going to be the thing that's needed to help get you through the day? I would think that if you're in like a stifling suit and tie, for the guys, that's not going to work. I mean, I think those are kind of going away out there. The increased productivity, I think office personnel need to be able to work in the environment that's going to be comfortable for them. Joel Patterson is on, workplace expert. And, Joel, thank you very much for joining us on the program. Let's go to the phones. We're going to go first up to Monica. Monica, where are you calling from? Welcome. When you go into the office...
I was trucking for a while, and I did work in an office at a grain mill. And it was casual, but it was a dress casual. So, probably the 80s crop top or T-shirt would not be appropriate. But no tank tops, no holes in your jeans. You can wear your boots. And we were very productive.
Okay.
Now, my office for the trucking company, they're the same way, and it's an awesome staff. They're really on top of it all the time.
Yeah, I can see the salespeople, if they've got to go out and maybe meet people.
Yeah, I mean, if you've got customer contact, it's maybe a little dressier. But, I think the casual environment is more acceptable now than it has been in the past, too.
Okay, why is that?
I think people just accept it more. There's less of an expectation of dresses and, high heels and nylons. Can anybody even buy those anymore? And ties, I think we live in a society that's gone a little more casual.
Yeah, okay, absolutely. Now, in the truck, I mean, it's jeans, it's an, casual shirt and things like that. I mean, and even if you are driving, say for 8, 10, 11 hours, I mean, to me, I would want to be the most comfortable, and flip-flops may be the way to go for me. I want to make it
I would too, but
day.
I love my boots. But then on the other hand, anytime I get out of this truck, I represent my company.
Of course.
I make sure that I look presentable. It's always clean jeans, a nice pair of boots, and a decent shirt. And occasionally I got the cowboy hat going on, and of course always my sequin belt, so that's just me. But I see people come into the customer and they've got on shower shoes and pajamas, and I'm going, am I in the wrong place? I suddenly feel so out of place in here. But I noticed that the customers react better with me. They actually make eye contact, they smile. It's an interesting thing to watch.
Yeah, no question, absolutely. And thank you for calling in, Monica. I appreciate it. And when you hear stories like that, that she prefers the casual approach, and maybe the more formal approach is kind of going away. That a fair statement, Joel? That the really high collar is going away?
It still comes down to what you're trying to convey as an organization, but I think Monica's point is certainly valid. How people are able to communicate, regardless of how they're dressed, is just completely changed. And when you're looking at how you recruit people, you want to be able to bring in people so they can be themselves and not necessarily try to become something that they're not. And how they dress that reflects a lot of people's personalities these days, right? And I can also make the case that on the flip side, it's true. I personally, whenever I am working with a salesperson that is dressed way nicer than I am, or expensive clothes that I definitely couldn't afford, I don't like buying from that person. It makes me a little uncomfortable. So you can make an argument for both ends of the spectrum for sure.
I have heard stories and read stories. I know you have had the same situation, reading stories, hearing about stories where some companies will not allow visible tattoos, like on the arm or maybe on the ankle and things like that. And to me, this is just my own thought that hey, if somebody's got a tattoo, that's great. If it's visible, that's fine. They've got to be productive. They've got to be able to do the job and things like that. I would think tattoos really shouldn't have be any of a concern for those in like the C-suite. for those that are working in the office. How do you see that overall?
I can tell you a lot of the C-suite has tattoos these days.
They do. They do.
They really do. And it's it's not just sailors that get tattoos anymore either. And as long as it's not something offensive, I'd say the same thing about a shirt. As long as it's not something that's offensive, then you be you.
Yeah, absolutely. And like the caller was mentioning that they know her. When she goes in there, they talk with her, and she's able to conduct business. And I think people or companies are going to look beyond the idea of, say, a casual look. They're going to look at the person they're dealing with. Doesn't it get down to that, in your estimation?
I think your point is absolutely valid. I would immediately overlook somebody's attire if they're standing up straight, they're confident, they're looking me in the eye, and they know what they have to say. The attire becomes something else. If the other stuff isn't there, then all of a sudden the attire becomes this, just another symbol of what this person is missing. So it really comes down to confidence, the ability to communicate, especially when you're talking sales. But I think that's true for anyone.
When you look at the culture overall, in your estimation, are employees placing more emphasis on maybe cultivating a healthy work-life balance and calling out toxic workplace cultures and things like that? Do you find that to be kind of the new norm, the healthy work-life balance for those in the workforce?
I mean, there's a huge transition that has taken place over the last 5 years. I mean, obviously during COVID, that was a big part of it. But even before that, the boss that screams and yells at people or, makes horrible decisions, I mean, those days, people talk now about that kind of thing. And you can't stay hidden the way I think you might have been able to at one point. And I know personally, I'm not going to work with somebody that yells at me. There's too much opportunity in the world today. So I think those people are kind of going by the wayside. They're still there. There'll always be a small minority percentage of them. But, yeah, you need to be able to compete with whatever works in your industry, and that needs to be how you treat people, how you allow them to behave in the office. I mean, all the things we've discussed today really kind of play into that. And what you really want, people always ask me what's the most important thing, and you got to look for people with a growth mindset. If they are interested in learning and they are interested in embracing the role, you're going to find somebody that will go lots of places in your organization.
Oh, absolutely. Now, how are you dressed today? You're in the office? Casual?
I am working from my home office currently, and I am in blue jeans and a sweatshirt. So I'm abiding by the casual work from home policy.
Okay, absolutely. The same thing here. I'm in jeans. I'm in a sweatshirt as well. And before, when I was working in, say, a traditional radio station or a TV station, depending upon the job, you had to dress the part. If you're going out to cover stories, you have to look nice. TV, you've got to be, your appearance has got to be perfect. With the tie and the suit and the hair, every hair in place out there. But I think more and more people are saying, you know what, we want more casual. We don't want more of the formal workplace environment out there, because the more casual indeed increases that productivity level. And again, if you've not been in the office for a long time, and are just now maybe started back maybe 3-6 months ago, don't forget, you can't maybe wear your PJs. You got to make sure the stuff in the fridge, it's yours. If it's yours, you can eat it. Don't eat anybody else's food. Hard-boiled eggs, raw onions are out. And, just be cognizant of the people that are around you. No nail clipping, please. That is not appropriate, casual, or formal workplace environment. Joel, thank you, man. Anything I missed that you'd like to maybe throw in as more folks go back to work in the office? What would you like to say? What do you think?
Well, I do have one former employee who would save their used napkins at lunch and keep a pile of them at their desk. So don't do that.
Are you serious?
I'm completely serious. And we didn't really discover it until, obviously some flies or gnats or whatever would start hanging out there, and it was disgusting.
That's awesome. Oh, man. Man, had to get that desk out of there. No question about that. Hey, Joel, thank you, man. Great 30 minutes. Where can folks find you up on the web?
Oh, you can find me on thevested.com, and we love to work with companies that are scaling their business.
Okay, very good. And are you on all the social media platforms as well? All those?
You can find me, yeah, I'm in any and all of them, and and in spite of Elon Musk, Twitter is still out there, so you can find us on Twitter as well. We're the Vested Group.
There you go. I wonder if he leaves like napkins at his desk, but who knows? All right, thank you, man, for
Somebody else.
joining me on the program. That is workplace expert Joel Patterson.